I think that was probably one of the most powerful moments in television, in reality TV specifically, because so many families struggle in that dynamic, and it's near impossible to understand how is it that you have so much generosity, emotional generosity, to include someone that you no longer are, in a romantic relationship, and have this kind of blend.
Yeah.
But it does.
Addressing that with Sarah and the, being what was on TV, nothing at all concocted about it. And actually, really one of the motivating factors for deciding to do the show, and it was something I, of course, discussed with Juliana, spoke with Sarah about, because of course it would require their willingness to put themselves out there, be participants of this. But I thought we had an interesting story to share that hopefully could be more positive than a lot of the crap you see on TV. I don't know, but this was, this before the, going into the show, this was our life. This was our relationship, and Juliana was finally just coming to America, but, Sarah was ready for that. At this time, the kids had already traveled to Brazil and met her, and Sarah was, always very supportive. I found our right place in terms of our relationship. Max and Cece always first, and that was, clearly something that just helped us put any differences aside. But whatever, I think we discovered what our relationship was meant to be, So what happened, on the show was, I'm glad people got to see that. None of that was concocted or set up for the sake of reality television. Even Sarah being our officiant, it didn't even seem weird to us. It made sense given the circumstances. That wasn't something the show put us up to, or put in our ear, or said, "Oh, hey, let's." No, everything was us. I'm happy to say that, and I think ultimately, with how our story ended on that season of 90 Day Fiancé, very happy with it. That was our goal. Show the world that, you don't have to, man, hatred and anger and negative feelings are just, it's toxic, and it's part of the human condition. Maybe I think about it a lot. I can personally, I can be angry. I can be upset. I can have very, very negative feelings about whatever. I think looking back, just lucky that I don't view the world that way. I've had okay, Sarah, I've had a divorce, Sarah. So what people know, we know what that relationship is like. I've had very bad business arrangements. There's been times been totally screwed and what have you. Sure, there's just people you come across in life. You can't pretend that every relationship, no matter what, is going to work out. But what really ends up happening is anger, the feelings of anger, or hatred, or what have you. That's doing much more damage to yourself than whatever retribution you think you should feel for somebody doing you wrong or something not working out. I don't know. I guess if I think about where maybe I learned that, I'm lucky I had some people in my life that spent enough time with that had a really wonderful natural way of looking at life, and I picked that up. Obviously, life experience and just realizing, anger and hatred and things like this. It's better just to have no feelings than to have those feelings, and there are times, some relationships you just have to stop, I guess in the world of business, I've had this where better just to back out, done, don't think about it, better to have no emotions or feelings at all, because anger, hatred, regret, or animosity, what that doesn't do anything. It just, you have to take things for what they are and move on, and realize, not everybody keeps the promises or feels the same way, or you realize they were selfish, looking out for themselves, lying. You learn from it, you move on. But wow, man, when people who just truly live with like anger and like negativity, it's so corrosive.
Yes.
These are people that are just end up being so unhappy.
It shows, and everything. It shows up, doesn't it? Isn't there saying something along the lines of, if you hate somebody and then you mix up some poison and then drink it yourself?
Basically.
Yeah. I think you just also revealed some professional advice. And here's what I mean by that. You shared with us that you met Juliana at this, let's call it glamorous event on the yacht. Your pathway there, not every one of us, gets to have the career that we like or that perhaps we hoped, scripted for ourselves. And yes, you often had mentioned that it was serendipitous and some degree of luck.
Yeah.
But there's something really profound that's at play here, besides all those factors, which of course are to be respected as part of the package. But what I want to highlight is the fact that you have created a very successful career in a rarefied category, which is wine space. You were very well known for what you do. And obviously a lot of acumen, a lot, formidable skill set when it comes to wine appraisal, auctioneering, various just physical qualities like honing your palate. But what's super important is you were always a people person.
Yeah.
And you forged those relationships, in this case with people that had money and power, but at the end of the day, it's just another human being with a bigger bank account.
Yeah.
You were very successful at that.
Mm-hmm.
And what you just described speaks very powerfully to that. You walked away from things that didn't make sense, that were toxic, and you fostered the relationships, you nurtured the relationships that made sense. And again, what I said earlier is that you're easy to connect with. You're friendly, you're articulate, you're intelligent. But that's an initial stage. To have a depth to a relationship, in this case, a business relationship, and that trust, that takes a whole other set of qualities that clearly you possess, and it served you well in your professional career. But I would submit that love was one of them. You have to like/love people in order to be able to treat them the way they want to be treated. Isn't that the truth?
I think so. And I think it, in the traditional sense of things, when thinking about human relationships, some people might say you have to look past things that other people don't have the ability to. What I mean by that is, okay, yeah, in the world of very fine wine, and especially in the auction days, yeah, you're not going to survive if you don't have the ability to get along with people and the ability to have some level of connection and, empathy, what have you, for
Absolutely.
Because it's small. It's a small world. And everybody knows everybody. Now, it doesn't mean that everybody in that industry, it's a big love fest and blah, blah. No, it's not at all. There are pariahs. There are the more likable, the blah, blah, blah. I was probably, my success was definitely much more a result of being able to manage interpersonal relationships really well, I would say.
Mm-hmm. That's a big deal.
It doesn't mean you just blindly love each other and it's like Woodstock all the time. It wasn't like that, but a lot of personalities. And not just talking about the client base, just even within the business, or even dealing with winemakers, being able to successfully manage and deal with, such disparate personalities and situations. I was always good at it, but it was natural. And I no matter what, would have like an underlying respect for people, and sometimes it didn't mean, there are you have to be careful. There are dangerous personalities out there that could get you into trouble, and we see this in the wine world. We've talked about, with some of the conversations we had when there's like, the Rudy Cornea ones that come along or whatever. They're, it doesn't mean you're completely bleeding heart and unguarded, but I think my quick ascent and the success I had when running auction companies had so much more to do with being a people person, if you will, with the right wine knowledge and experience. But wow, I mean, life, being able to navigate life in general, is how well can you deal with other people one way or another, even if it's really close, your friends and family, romantic partners, children, or just being able to go, especially now under quarantine and there's so much anxiety and so much, it's so neurotic, for your own sake, the more you can just have some level of, going to this word of equanimity, which is it's like a resolve. It doesn't mean you're perfect, believe me. I mean, there's there's people I have very strong, not so great feelings or opinions about. I'm not, again, this is such a fine line between, love everybody, Woodstock hippie. Sorry, I mean, I'm just trying to put it in some kind of, category. But just having general respect, and ability to communicate, relate, interact, even if and there's been times where that other person is doing something wrong to you. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. But it doesn't mean it has to be in that moment. Anger and things are coming out. It just, if the examples I have, if this was happening in, let's say, a business environment, which often is where bad blood just comes out, because when it comes to business and romance, like the most selfish human behaviors are just put out front ultimately, right? Mm-hmm. Sad but true. But especially, business stuff, whether you're starting a company with somebody or trying to partner with somebody, I'm very quick to just pull the plug if it's not going to work, or you try something and you just realize, even if it before, I thankfully, let me put it this way. Thankfully, I'd like to think that I'm learning enough, and life is learning. You learn from your experiences. I'd like to think you forgive yourself for the mistakes you've made, mm-hmm. the times that maybe you had too much, trust, faith, whatever. Use that experience and learn from it. And I'm even more, I feel more capable of identifying now when something isn't working right, or doesn't look like it'll work right because it's not the right blend of personalities, outlooks, whatever. And the best way to learn is to learn the hard way sometimes. And there you go.
No, what you're describing makes a lot of sense, and it's coming from a place of sense and sensibility. It's practical. Like you said, it's not necessarily love each other to an nth degree, forsaking yourself and any kind of sensibilities. No, you were not advocating that at all. What you're describing is something that, is situational decision making, but I think the overarching theme is that you appreciate human nature with all its faults. You see the faults.
Yeah.
Sometimes you reject it in a partnership context because why? Why would you spend time and energy on something that you know not going to work? But you take that helicopter view and you assess things.
Yeah.
And I think that's a great quality to have.
You know what that comes from? I think that, on this topic of love, what is love? And, it's interesting. I mean, it's actually, look, I don't know what the Webster's dictionary formal definition of love is, but this is, it's such a profoundly hot topic that as humans we're wrestling with every day, one way or another. I think a form of it and why, even in the not so great experiences I've had, whether romantically or, in work, professional things or whatever, but if you accept the idea of acceptance and compassion,
Mm-hmm.
that plays into this idea of love, I think, because even if somebody hurts you, maybe they did it unintentionally, maybe it was truly malicious.
Mm-hmm.
Man, your own happiness is much better off if you're equipped with the tools of acceptance and compassion, even for those people that did you wrong.
Wow, that's powerful.
Well, because it doesn't manifest that negative energy, that anger, that hatred. You can let it go. You release it and you move on,
Absolutely.
And I think in some strange way that ties into this love emotion. It doesn't mean you have to love that person. I think it has more to do with how you see yourself, maybe, and there is this idea of you can't love anybody unless you love yourself. I don't know.
Absolutely true.
Yeah. I've noticed this, the better I've been able to have acceptance for somebody's behavior or decisions or whatever, have compassion for them. And you know what? Guess what? It didn't work out. Bad person. Just keep the distance. You don't have the lingering, anger or hatred. That just keeps you up at night, that gnaws at you. There's no way of resolving that. There isn't. You're never going to get the resolution that you're looking for when you have those kind of negative feelings.
Mm-hmm.
You have to move on. But the best way to deal with it is put it in the past, cut it off, go forward,
Super healthy stuff and helpful. I think in terms of the definition of love, from what I recall, it has to do with deep emotional attachment, right? There's the word attachment there somewhere. And it's so important because it starts so early on and it really is a lifetime thing. What I mean by that is I read somewhere that as infants, newborns, we attach to specifically our mom in two ways, either healthy or unhealthy. And I don't mean to go deep into psychology here, but the practical implication is it's rather simple division. You either have a healthy worldview for the rest of your life, and it's scary how early on it happens.
Yeah.
Just a few months old, and I think by 2 the die is cast, or you have unhealthy, and that's everything flows from there as far as the relational aspects, right? So when you describe those connections and attachments, if it's a healthy attachment and doesn't work, you can detach and move on. But people stay in negative situations and relationships and spew this negativity because they're not okay with themselves.
Yeah. Yeah. Or and even their, their, the formative experiences they have, it may be all they know, and I do know people that suffer with this where unfortunately, their upbringing, their background, their parental relationships, family relationships, like that's just a sort of pool they're swimming in. They don't know anything else. And it seems that they may not have the equipment or ability to step back and really know maybe this isn't so good and you're not so happy because all this, but they didn't ever maybe have the luxury of real love, real compassion, acceptance, blah, 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 like just growing up in bad circumstance or just negativity,
Yes.
cynicism, parents who weren't, were detached or just too stressed out or something, or who knows, or worse, true abuse or neglect or abandonment or something like this,
That scale that you can go as negative as, it's devastating.
That truly affects the wiring for life,
I wrote an article once that basically argued the point that we all live in glass houses.
Yeah.
And I believe that with everything that I am.
Yeah.
So what we don't realize sometimes is that we are transparent to others. And if you're not okay with yourself, it's out on display.
Yeah.
And I think if we were aware of that, perhaps, just like when somebody's watching, you probably wouldn't do anything wrong.
Self-awareness, that's huge.
Yes.
My mother, she's a psychologist. She was a professor of psychology, private practice. She's basically retired now, but we have a lot of wonderful conversations, and she's definitely from more of a, let's say, the scientific point of view. She's really fun to talk with because of her training and her background, but she's also intuitive enough in why she went into the line of work she did. It's really fun spending time with her, that she can have some very enlightening points of view and perspective on the human condition and human nature. And I will say this, she's not always right. Let me put it that way. But what's amazing about my mother is somebody who's truly trained in the human mind, human behavior. She's also willing to accept that she doesn't have all the answers. There isn't, you could read all these books, you could have a doctorate like she does and all this, but guess what? There's been, she will also admit that, people are still people. We have the ability, proverbially speaking, like we can change, we can evolve, we can grow, we can adapt. You just hope that people are doing it for the better, not the worse, and that's sort of the moving target, which is best case scenario. You approach life that you're learning, you're experiencing, and you're adapting and changing and responding to that, hopefully in a way where you're maintaining humanity.
Yeah. It's amazing how much better individual quality of life and us as a society would be if we just paid attention, because that's really all it takes.
Yeah.
We're all in one big glass house right now.
Yeah.
And what is the takeaway from that? What does it really all mean? And I think philosophically speaking, if you pay attention right now, it becomes very clear very quickly who has what agenda.
Yeah.
And, it can be negative or positive, but it's not hard to discern. It's just a matter of stopping and thinking about it and analyzing it. And as a result, I think, as odd as it may sound, we have a potential of coming out of this monstrous crisis way better as humans in this society.
Wow, I hope you're right.
Potential.
It is like a chance. It really
Yeah.
is. It's an opportunity. We can hope. Ilona, I need like a 3 or 5 minute break.
Totally. Should I stop recording?
Yeah, I'm gonna stop on my side. But
Yeah.
okay, I'll be right back. I just need to freshen up a little bit. And,
No. It's all good. Thank you.
Cool. Okay.
No
I'll
worries.
be right back. It won't be more than like 3 to 5
Take
minutes.
your time. Take your time.
Okay.
So one of the things that I find absolutely fascinating about the current situation in particular is the fact that a lot of people plan for the future. They plan vacations, they plan retirement, they plan whatever it is, X in the future. Then all of a sudden they experience, to use your word, interruption.
Yeah.
That interruption may be a permanent one in some ways, meaning we don't know when, how, what form it's going to take.
Yeah.
The world is going to be very different.
Yeah, and some of it, there's obviously, I guess permanent change. Going back to my my mother, my mom's great. She's a rock. She's a wonderful woman, and she worked hard, smart, and sensible, saved and planned retirement, and she's okay. Not some mogul who is sitting on millions and millions of dollars and planning to move to an island. Ultimately, she's going to be okay. But we talked about this with the way the market crashed with the virus stuff. In January, before this pandemic was working its way through the stock markets and people's 401ks and IRAs and retirement things, she's looking back now and saying, there was a point where my mom's in her 70s, right? So she's retirement age. She's like, I was, my retirement assets were way beyond what I had planned for. And she wasn't being greedy. It's just like, what do you do? Okay, great. Things are really wonderful.
Mm-hmm.
But now, with the way the market went, she's okay. Not like she's wiped out, but now it's well under that. She had this calculated retirement savings in mind that would get her, make sure she's okay for whatever indefinite time. We happen to have a lot of longevity in my DNA,
What is that?
So, she's probably if you see my mom, she'll turn 73 this year, but a lot of people would say she doesn't look a day over like in her 50s or something. We have like youth on our side. Okay. So that means you have to plan for being around a while, right? But anyway, so, she's just one story, but think about, how many people, the effects on, how the markets got screwed up and, retirement savings and 401ks and all this stuff, that's one thing. And then of course, going back to what we're talking about, the idea of travel and dreams of seeing places that you've never been because now you have the time and you put your hard work in and yada yada. But life is so uncertain, there's just so much, you can't plan for these things, And
there's again sort of a teachable moment there. If you tend to put things off, it's no judgment, but if that's your personality, that's your choice.
Yeah.
there's a consequence, because that tomorrow may never come for a whole
Yeah.
host of reasons. We're not advocating living life in the moment thoughtlessly, um, but I think there's something to be said about experiencing it to the fullest extent as much as you can.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think you've done a lot of that in
Oh,
your
not enough.
relationship, even
Yeah.
with Juliana, right?
Well, personally, I mean, so it was almost 5 years ago now that I left the auction world, like full time, like running
Okay.
auction. That's when I left Wally's uh, summer of 2015.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and I think I was very much motivated at the time that living life, doing things, not being so reckless. I was still a father,
Of
you
course.
know, still spending my time here in Connecticut, also for business reasons, and fostering different ways of making income, and using my connections and opportunities to start other ventures that allowed more freedom, thankfully. uh, but I will tell you, having uh, really watched people see, and knowing people that didn't weren't doing what they wanted to do or didn't get the chance to,
Mm-hmm.
it wasn't hard at all to adopt this sort of lifestyle of traveling a lot, seeing the world, mixing business into that you could, but also just like, you know what, man, the light switch could go off tomorrow, and I won't complain that, holy crap, I decided going to Venice or Florence or wherever,
Mm-hmm.
and versus having a little extra money in the bank or something like this. I don't know. You don't have the answers. Life is uncertainty, but here we are now. Can't complain. I'm glad I made these decisions, as much as many people may judge them as, on some level, reckless. Financial advisors would have said, "What the hell are you doing?" But guess what?